All right, welcome to the Token Launch Masterclass. This is episode 1, and we're starting with a bombshell. The white paper is dead, mastering the one-pager and vision deck. Look, I've been in this game a long time, and what I see every day is that the rulebook has changed. The days of sending a VC a 50-page academic thesis and expecting them to read it, those days are over. Dead and buried. Attention spans are shot. You don't have an hour of someone's time. You have maybe 3 minutes. 3 minutes to get them interested enough to book a proper meeting. So let me ask you this. When you've got that tiny window, is your dense, jargon-filled white paper your best asset? Or is it your biggest liability? Let's get into it. So let's break down why the traditional white paper fails. You have to understand, these things came from academia. They were designed to be dense, formal research papers for peer review. But the crypto venture world isn't an academic seminar. It's a fast-paced business arena. What I see time and time again is founders trying to cram a business pitch into a format that's actively hostile to it. The result is almost always the same, a wall of technical jargon that obscures the idea. A business case that's buried somewhere on page 27, and a core value proposition that's totally lost. Let's be honest. You might find that 99% of your target audience, the investors you need, never get past the abstract. We've created a document that's designed not to be read, and that's the fundamental problem we're here to fix. So if the white paper is the wrong tool for that first impression, what's the right one? What I like to see, and what I advise every team I work with, is the one-pager. Think of it as your project's entire elevator pitch, captured on a single, visually engaging page. This isn't a summary. It's the replacement for that initial contact. Its whole purpose is to deliver the most critical information with maximum clarity and impact. Honestly, you might find the process of creating one is incredibly valuable in itself. It forces you to strip away all the noise, all the fluff, and distill your vision down into its most potent, most compelling form. It's the sharp, polished hook that gets the meeting. All right, so let's get into the anatomy of a killer one-pager. What I like to focus on first is the core narrative, and that always begins with two things: the problem and the solution. For the problem, you have to frame it so it's instantly relatable. Don't talk about protocol inefficiencies. Talk about the user's actual pain point. You want the investor to immediately nod and think, "Yeah, I get that." Then comes your solution. Resist the deep urge to explain the how with technical minutia. Instead, what I find works best is focusing on the what and the why. A simple framework I always suggest is, for this target user who struggles with this specific problem, our project provides this clear solution. It's clean, powerful, and cuts right to the heart of why you exist. Okay, so you've nailed the problem and solution. Next, what I like to see is the market. And I don't mean just some massive generic number. You might find that it's much more powerful to show you understand your specific user and the size of that addressable niche. It shows focus. Then comes the team. This is about building trust instantly. What I often suggest is pulling out one key, undeniable credential for each founder that proves they are the right people for this job. And finally, the token utility. This is non-negotiable. It has to be a single, clear sentence. What I tell founders is to answer the question, the token is used to external. If you can't fill that blank clearly, you're not ready. It should be simple, clean, and immediately understandable. So you've got this fantastic one-pager. It's sharp, it's clear, and it got you the meeting. What now? This is where its companion comes in, the vision deck. What I find is that founders often confuse the two, but their jobs are completely different. Your one-pager is a static document. It's the thing you email, the leave behind that gives a perfect snapshot. But the vision deck? That's a dynamic, live storytelling tool. Its job is to support you when you're in the room presenting. You might find that the best decks aren't a collection of bullet points you read from. They're a visual narrative. They use images and powerful phrases to guide the conversation, to tell a story, and most importantly, to build an actual emotional connection to your vision. So you're in the room, the presentation is up. What I like to see is an incredibly strong opening. The first 3 slides that set the entire tone for your 10 or 12 slide deck. Your title slide is simple. Project name and a powerful 1-sentence tagline that encapsulates the vision. No fluff. Then, the problem slide. What I find works best here isn't a wall of text. You might find it more effective to use one powerful image or a single shocking statistic that makes the problem visceral. You want them to feel the pain point, and immediately after, you hit them with the vision slide. This isn't the how, it's the what if. It's the grand idea, the picture of the better future you're building. If you nail these 3 slides, you've earned their full attention for the rest of the deck. All right, you've grabbed their attention. Now for the meat of the deck. What I like to see next is a how it works slide. Forget complex schematics. You might find that a simple, elegant diagram or a few slick product mock-ups are far more effective. It makes your idea feel real. Next, your go-to-market slide. I'm looking for specifics here, not just will use social media, but a clear strategy for acquiring your first users. And then, the most important slide of all, token utility. This slide must answer the big question, why a token? You have to justify its existence, beyond just fundraising. What I advise is to clearly show its role in the ecosystem, and briefly, just briefly, touch on how it accrues value as the network grows. We'll tear that concept apart in the next episode, but for now, it's about planting that seed. Now you've laid out the vision. It's time to bring it home and seal the deal. This is where you build that final layer of trust. What I find really grounds the pitch is the team slide. This isn't just a list of names. It's about putting faces to the vision and highlighting that one killer piece of experience for each founder that proves you're the right people for the job. Next, I look for the roadmap. You might find it's more powerful to show the traction you've already achieved. That builds instant credibility. Then, lay out your key future milestones. It proves you're not just dreaming, you're executing. And finally, the ask. What I like to see here is a slide that is brutally simple. No ambiguity. State exactly what you're seeking, whether it's funding, a key partnership, or community engagement. It shows confidence and gives everyone in the room a clear call to action. Okay, so let's walk through the common traps, because knowing what not to do is just as important. For the one-pager, what I often see is information overload. Its job is to start a conversation, not end it. You might find that poor design and simple typos are instant credibility killers, so get them right. For the vision deck, the biggest mistake is reading from your slides. You're the storyteller. The deck is just your visual aid. Also, avoid undefined acronyms and overly ambitious roadmaps. They signal a lack of focus. Now you will get the question, where is the white paper? What I like to do is answer with confidence. That's a great question. We started with the core business case in this deck, and we have a full technical paper ready for a deeper dive. It shows you respect their time, but have the depth to back it up. So, to make this really concrete, what I like to do is run a little thought experiment. Let's take a project everyone knows, like Chainlink. Now, imagine them starting out today. The old way would be a 40-page white paper on the Byzantine generals problem and decentralized Oracle networks. you'd lose 99% of your audience instantly. But with our framework, you might find their one-pager's core pitch is just one sentence. For smart contract developers who are limited by a lack of real-world data, Chainlink provides a secure and reliable bridge to off-chain information, unlocking a new universe of applications. See the difference? Their vision deck wouldn't show complex diagrams. It would show decentralized crop insurance paying out farmers after a drought, or a lending protocol using real-time asset prices. It's not about the how. It's about the what if. This is how you make an incredibly complex idea not just understandable, but genuinely exciting. All right, so let's bring it all together for today. What I hope you take away is this: prioritize absolute clarity and brevity in everything you create. You might find that your sharp, focused one-pager is the perfect tool for that initial outreach to get your foot in the door. Then, once you're in the room, your vision deck becomes your storytelling canvas. These aren't just replacements for a white paper. What I like to think of them as are the sharpest tools you have for cutting through all the noise in this space. Now that you know how to pitch your project, it's time to build its economic engine. Join us next time for Episode 2, Tokenomics Masterclass, Designing for Value Accrual, Not Just Speculation. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll